Hi, welcome to the channel, and welcome to another installment of our Masterclass series. This is a series of videos where I am joined by a high level Pokemon player or players to discuss a Pokemon archetype or element of gameplay they're particularly proficient at or with. These videos should hopefully serve as an educational resource for the VGC community as a whole for older and newer players alike. This week we are joined by Mattie Morgan to talk about Amoonguss. Mattie is one of the strongest players in Europe, including a regional win and multiple top cup finishes over the past few seasons, and is arguably one of the strongest players of the Scarlet and Violet era. Amoonguss might be the greatest competitive Pokemon of all time, has an immeasurable number of incredible results, and is an ever present on all sorts of teams, especially on balance cores. Without any further ado, let's get into what makes Amoonguss so great.
Hi guys, I'm Matty. I've been playing since my first tournament was in 2016, and yeah, in that time I've played a lot of tournaments. And Amoonguss is one of my most used Pokemon, so I'm here to talk about it today.
Absolutely. And yeah, getting in straight into what makes Amoonguss so good is what makes it good. I mean, these are some sort of like high level notes. Matt is going to talk to you guys why this is one of the great, maybe the greatest competitive Pokemon of all time.
Yeah, maybe honestly, like it's been pretty good since it came out in every format. I don't think it's ever been bad, and it's won Worlds 3 times as well. So. Yeah, it really is like a contender for the most successful Pokemon ever, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, like let's talk about what makes Amoonguss so good. So, first of all, its typing is pretty good. It's actually funny because it's almost like a prerequisite on teams to have a grass type because of Amoonguss. Because its like most threatening attacking move is Spore. And what that does, if you don't know, is it just puts the opponent to sleep and it can't miss. But the counterplay to it is to have like a Pokemon that's immune, which is like a grass type or something with safety goggles usually, or some abilities. Also like Misty and Electric Terrain. So in the grass type you actually get an immunity to other Amoonguss. Um, Poison typing is it's a weird mix. So grass and poison aren't like super good on their own, but together they give you like quite a lot of useful resistances like fairy, water, fighting, just to name a few. Um, and yeah, so typing's pretty good. The speed. So a lot of reason like why people choose to use Amoonguss is to counter Trick Room teams. It's really slow at 30 base speed, so even against like most Trick Room sweepers, you're still gonna be slower than them. So you can really just shut them down when you move first with Spore. Um, and yeah, its ability Regenerator also lets it come in and sponge hits. It's a very bulky Pokemon, so it's usually used as a supporter. So this ability is really good because you switch in and out a lot. And just tank hits for the rest of your team. Its moveset, like as I touched on slightly, it always has Spore. It's always gonna have Rage Powder as well, just to redirect attacks from its teammates. It'll usually carry Protect, but not always, and then it'll usually have like one normal attacking move, which is like usually like Sludge Bomb or Pollen Puff. Or sometimes it's moves like Grass Knot, depending on the format, or Clear Smog. Um, Pollen Puff is probably the most common right now because it also heals your teammate. So it's kind of like a two in one, and that really goes with Amoonguss's like supporting role.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just, yeah, it's incredible. Like, it's one of the most broken. Weirdly, just like a 400 and something BST mushroom is like one of the most broken Pokemon of all time.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, really incredible, and like it's like the defensive backbone of like so many like popular teams, popular archetypes. It's yeah,
hmm
truly
I
impressive.
think if you've never watched VGC, like you won't realize how good it is just from looking at the stats. Like it doesn't look like amazing on paper, but in practice, it's just so good.
Absolutely. And then we start to look at some of its results. This isn't even fully up to date from Limitless, but like look at the it's got 36 regional wins, 10 internet/worlds
That's
wins,
crazy.
like all that prize.
Yeah.
Like since these as well, this was last updated in Reg H. Like it's just literally just won a UIC. That's another 10 grand, another
Yeah.
internet. Like, um, it's incredible, and like I think what's really cool, just looking at sort of these notable results, is like sort of the variety of teams it can work on.
Hmm.
I mean, we have like I literally was able to just pick out firsts. Well, I didn't even need to bother looking at anything else. But like, because the like on yours, it's sort of on a rain balancy team, your
Hmm.
Malmo team, and then you can see it on like pure rain. That's more of an offensive team of Tornadoes. You see it on the more of like you see sort of trick room teams. Yeah, so like, yeah, is it really just that splashable? You can sort of just run it on pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah, somewhat. I think it almost plays like slightly differently depending on the team, even if it's the same set. So, like on those offensive teams, it's gonna really wanna try and redirect attacks. Like, for example, like Marco's Sao Paulo team there. Um, I think it was included to help like the sweepers like Goldango and Urshifu and Arcanine just really sweep. What how that would play is like usually he can lead like an offensive Pokemon, and then if he wants to switch out, it's just a really good sponge. Say he uses Make It Rain and he's at -1, and there's not much left to do. You can at least switch into a Amoonguss, tank the hit, and then threaten a Spore back. And on these types of teams, it honestly carries the Trick Room matchup a bit because they tend to struggle against Trick Room, especially Tailwind fast teams. Um, on some teams like Andrew Zhang's team there, it's usually like it's actually in Trick Room itself, so you can play Trick Room too. Usually when you have it on a Trick Room team, the Trick Room setter's quite offensive because one of Amugus's weaknesses is some like it obviously doesn't do that much damage, so Porygon helps with that because it's usually an offensive Porygon to really abuse the Trick Room, and then it gets access to those spores that always go first beside a good sweeper.
Absolutely. You used a very similar
Yeah,
team to that in Red Cage, didn't you?
yeah,
To second place.
great team. I did, yeah, in Dortmund.
Like I was like, I've definitely got to get one of your results here. So definitely your win. But like, yeah, it's like so you got a second with it as well. So yeah, it's like yeah, definitely an expert. Yeah. So we now start to look at like some of the sample builds. I've just grabbed a few of them. I wanted to grab the world winning team. There wasn't a paste out there, so I just grabbed like the rental. But like you can see, that was a Reg D team. And it's
Hmm.
yeah. So it's like that's like the like early in the format. But like if we start, we'll start with Nick Morales' Rain team. Like yeah, so you do see quite a good amount of Amoonguss on Rain. Obviously your regional win with Amoonguss also included Pelipper. So why don't you talk about like the benefits of Amoonguss on Rain?
Oh yeah, well, Amoonguss is good on rain because one of its weaknesses is fire, but that's usually one of the bigger ones because it's on most teams. Well, it kind of comes down to whether Incineroar has Flare Blitz or not nowadays, but
Yeah,
there are other fire types as well. So canceling out that fire weakness with rain is really, really strong. Um, it can also like rain teams are quite weak to electric moves, which Amoonguss resists. So Rage Powder's really good into those. Yeah, and then it can do all the usual stuff like counter Trick Room as well.
absolutely. And like I believe you actually ran was it yours Terra Electric, your Malmo one.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a fairly neutral Terra. I used it because it was usually Terra Water at this time, but I didn't want to be weak to freeze dry, so that's like the main reason why I changed it.
that's really cool. Yeah, and like yeah, talk to us about your obviously it's your regional winning team. So talk to us about this team and sort of how it came about.
Yeah, so in Reg C, like this core of Amoonguss, Arcanine, Palafin, and Fluttermane was like very common. Amoonguss, Arcanine, Palafin makes up like a Fire Water Grass core. It's kind of like two defensive pieces with Arcanine and Amoonguss, and then Palafin as the sweeper. You can spend like a lot of turns, honestly, just trying to get into the right spot, get a spore off, and then come in with Palafin and try to sweep. Um, but I added Pelipper because I found that it couldn't like keep up with the pace as the format got more offensive. Um, especially against stuff like Chiyu Fluttermane. If you have rain, you can one shot Fluttermane with Palafin once it has zero to hero activated. So that was really huge.
Yeah, for sure.
That's more about the team, I guess, but Amoonguss in general, this was quite a slow format for a while, so in those matchups, you'd really just want to like take good damage trades, and that's really easy when you have a Pokemon that can just take moves and then heal them off just by
Absolutely.
switching, and also Spore
Yeah,
for
I like even
the
like
general.
citrus to make it live even longer. Like yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, I think that's another thing about Amoonguss is it can hold so many different items. Like it's very much team dependent. You can put
yeah,
sort of tailor it to your composition. Like um, yeah, why don't we look at literally the team that just won regional this on this on an international, sorry. So it's yeah, just won EUIC. Like this is it's a sludge bomb Amoonguss with mental herb and Pterodark. You really don't want to be taunted. Price to taunted this
yeah.
one, but like yeah, this shows that this is a completely different composition terrain. This is like a sun perish team. So
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, what do you think
It's
of yeah,
very good on Perishong, in my opinion.
yeah.
Because obviously Spore, if they've only got 3 turns to live, and one or two of them is like when they're like being asleep, uh, it doesn't end well for them because yeah, they won't have enough time to take the KOs. Um, I think this team is like deceptively offensive as well. So Amoonguss can also like support Koraidon, for example. I'm sure it's very useful in like the rain matchup, which could otherwise be pretty tough for this team.
For sure. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think in the restricted format you do see a fair bit more sludge bomb as well, which actually does
Mm-hmm.
not horrendous damage, like even with no investment. Like
Yeah, it's not bad, especially the 30% poison, and often you get a few chances to fire that off because you're so bulky.
for sure. And
That wins games.
then we could look at Niels's UIC winning team with this is like yeah a trick room. Would you call it a trick room team? It's sort of like a hybrid team, but again, Amoonguss is
Yeah.
a helmet. Amoonguss, Terra Ghost, which is an interesting Terra type on it. But that's obviously another one where it can really support the trick room mode and also just be just like a really good defensive piece to sort of get your sweepers in position.
Mm-hmm. Terraghost is really interesting. Yeah, like you said, I think when you're in the trick room mode, Terraghost is good to block fake out. So you just like they really have limited ways to stop Spore. Um, Flare on Incineroar is actually I think quite good with Amoonguss specifically because they're often gonna want to tear grass or just use grass types to obviously be immune to Spore. So that helps. And Incineroar can also knock off safety goggles. So that's like both the main ways to stop sleep Incineroar can help with.
Abs-
Um,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure, absolutely. And then yeah, like literally just go back another year and it's one of the last three UICs, which I noticed, which is really fun.
That's crazy.
I was like, oh, well, that's a nice little link. And like, yeah, this is the Chewer set, which is, yeah, it's on pallets, very
Yeah.
similar to what you didn't. It's sort of like yes, similar to yours even in terms of it being this core, but with the Tinglu and the Roaring Moon, so not a rain sort of mode, but yeah, again, just impressive to see. Like it's just that you can highlight three different EYCs. It's just one every single one. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I suppose there's not too much to say different to your team on this one, other than the fact that it's got this of these double darks, which is
Yeah, I think it is a good Pokemon with Roaring Moon, obviously, because I haven't really talked about it that much, but it tends to do well besides setup sweepers because Spore and Rage Powder just buy you so much time.
absolutely, yeah. I think yeah, it's definitely really helps your pieces set up and get like yeah, it's like a great redirector because it is so bulky, and then you can get it out and use it again later on. Cool. So if we move on to piloting tips, so I personally am not a good Amoonguss pilot. I've used it before and I've struggled. It feels I don't think I'm alone in saying like it sometimes does feel like its base stats like what like but like you see it get so many incredible results. So like what are your tips as a like avid user like how to pilot this thing, like when to protect, when to get out, when to let it sponge hits, like
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, it's kind of weird. You have to kind of get into this different mindset with it because sometimes it is just like kind of useless, honestly. Most teams have like two or three ways to dodge Spore, to block Spore, sorry. So if you have a Moongus out, you're honestly expecting like their Incineroar with goggles to come in or their Grass type to come in, and in those situations, I think you have to try and get it out. The other way to look at it is like you can deal with those Pokemon first and then play to like a Spore end game. Um, Obviously, so like if you're against like Urshifu, you obviously want to switch it in, especially if you're Rocky Helmet, just to dodge that. That's like the main example of what it would like to redirect right now. Um, it's really one of the only Pokemon that can comfortably sponge like Rapid Strike or Shifu. Uh, I'd also say you want to play beside quite offensive Pokemon usually. You don't want to have two Pokemon that can't really do damage on the field as like a general rule in VGC, honestly. Um, and yeah, I would really look for like plays where you can get a Spore off guaranteed or go get a good trade at least. Um, so for example, sometimes it's worth letting your partner go down just so you can get a Spore off because it really messes with their momentum so much. It's often better to just lose your Pokemon than have it go to sleep.
absolutely no, that's really interesting. Yeah, like really help pick it up. It's like I don't think it's like an easy one and so sort of like just pick up and play if you've not got any experience of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that will definitely help people like when they're first picking up a Moongus, like yeah, get used to it a lot quicker. Now we'll just talk about some of the partners for Amoonguss. So like obviously we've mentioned already like it sort of helps with redirection and like being part of a fire water grass core. Like yeah, what are your thoughts on like the best things to put with Amoonguss? Like it almost feels like Amoonguss is the best piece to put with a lot of other things, but like yeah, sort of like
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually like you don't build around the Amoonguss. I definitely have because I like it, but it's often like the defensive piece of like your team. So you can put it with almost anything. Obviously, the fire water grass core is really good, and it's often part of that. Um, yeah, setup sweepers are good with redirection. Just attackers in general that don't have the best defenses.
yeah. I suppose you
Um,
could even pair it with like choice mons and just like rage powder away the threats and just yeah
yeah,
deal out damage. Um, so yeah,
pieces that can pivot is good as well. Yeah, as you've put.
yes, it's like
Yeah,
yeah, it's no coincidence you see it with Incineroar so much. It's just like
yeah. On like that pairing has probably got more CP than most Pokemon.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised for sure.
Yeah. So you can do like switch out Amoonguss and parting shot and just get it healed on the same turn. It's completely busted to be honest. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, Rain is obviously gets an advantage from Rain because its weakness gets cancelled out. Um, you can really put it with anything. I would say the only rule is like don't have like a too passive team. You need to have a good amount of attackers to use it well, in my opinion.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to make the most use of your spore turns.
Absolutely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like, yeah, I suppose like yeah, I think there's a really good point about not making the team too passive because yeah, that's when it can. I suppose it can start to feel like it's an uphill battle just to win games. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
sure, great. So that will bring us to the end of the Amoonguss Masterclass with Matty. It's like yeah, it's an incredible one. Like, it's one of the best of all time for a reason. And yeah, hopefully this is educational for anyone wanting to pick up Amoonguss, especially like newer players who don't like sort of like look at it like why is it good. Hopefully this really helps to explain it. So without any further ado, we'll just get onto our socials and then we'll get out of it. Matty, if you got any socials you want to plug or any shout outs?
I've got a Twitter. I've got Mattie Move VGC. Shout outs, I'm not sure. Thanks to my friends for always supporting me. I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, you can find me Twitch and Twitter at the Postman P as well on see on here. And shout outs just generally to everyone that's tuning in. Really appreciate the feedback so far. Hope everyone's enjoying these, and we will see you next time.